Thank you. Good evening. It is 6 o'clock and we're going to call the Committee of the Whole meeting on February 10th to order. Counselor Larry Pinch is running a few minutes behind. And I want to welcome Carrie and Alex who are online. So they're watching online. Next on, we'll look for the agenda, approval of the agenda, including any additions or deletions. Does anyone have any additions or deletions? Seeing none, it will be approved as circulated. Any declaration of conflict of interest? Seeing none, we'll keep on moving along. Announcements. I have a couple. West Hants Regional Municipality is in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This land is governed by the treaties of peace and friendship signed in 1726. West Hants Regional Municipality recognizes we are all treaty people and have responsibilities to this land and each other. West Hants Regional Municipality also recognizes African Nova Scotians are a distinct people whose histories, legacies, and contributions have enriched that part of Mi'kma'ki known as Nova Scotia for over 400 years. And just council and committee and I as chair are committed to ensuring this meeting and its participants conduct themselves in a peaceful, respectful, professional manner as outlined in the municipality's municipal code of conduct. Meeting presenters, staff, and public are expected to conduct themselves in an equally respectful manner at all times the meeting is being conducted. I thank everyone in advance for your commitment to these important meeting principles. Councillor John Smith, did you have an announcement?
Yes, I did. I just wanted to let the public know that myself and Councillor Kayla Leary Pinch will be hosting a town hall meeting at the Falmouth Community Center on February 25th from 6 to 8 p.m. That's next Wednesday.
Perfect. Looking forward to that. Any other announcements? Seeing no lights, we'll move right along to 6. Approval of the previous meeting minutes, 2026-01-13 Committee of the Whole. They were circulated in your package, so if there's any concerns. Councillor Ivey.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. On page 9 and 10, when we were discussing the financial reports, there's 2 or 3 references there that's referencing them as though they were December 31st, but it should be November 30th, I believe. And I'd take direction if the Director of Finance thinks I'm incorrect in that, but I'm pretty sure that it was November 30th on the dates for those statements that month. Okay. And then the one other item is there's a reference under discussion points that makes reference to Wentworth Road, but it was Wentworth Road and Underwood that were raised by Councillor with regards to a reversal on the numbers. So that should be updated. And that's, I think, all that I have on that.
Okay.
So there's 2 or 3 references to the December date that I'm sure the clerk will.
Okay, we'll make note of those and get those corrected. Noted them. Perfect. Any others? No? You're good, Councillor Ivey? Just want to make sure. Okay, so we're going to move along. We have one presentation this evening. So it's agriculture in West Hants, and everyone received the email. So we have MLA Sheehy Richard and MLA for Annapolis, David Bowlby here, who's the Minister Advisor to the Minister of Agriculture. So welcome, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Well, Council, thank you for entertaining us tonight, and we can, I guess, stay as long as you want or as short as you want, but really it's just to open the floor and discussion on agriculture in the community. And Dave just shared with me a fun fact that we could produce enough food in Nova Scotia to feed 9 million people. So as you know, one of the priorities of our government is to make sure there's more local food produced and procured locally and in our provincial institutions. So we're at an 18% target, and 20% is 100% doable, but really 100% would be amazing. So I will let Dave take it away as we go through these questions together, and he'll explain the purpose and why we're here. Dave.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for adding Melissa and I to the agenda tonight on such a short notice. I really do appreciate that. Parked outside and just getting things in order, and I happened to glance out the window. Some beat up old Dodge truck pulls in, and lo and behold, it's my old buddy from high school, Mr. Whedon. So Councillor Whedon, like, imagine Councillor Whedon, Emily Bowlby, like how times change. It's nice to see you. And it's great to be here. I really do appreciate it. Way back when, after the election, all of us rookie MLAs were brought in to meet the premier on a one-on-one. And what are you passionate about? What do you want to do for your county? And I said, during the election, driving to all four corners of the county in Annapolis, there is an incredible amount of unused, underutilized agriculture land. It's growing up in shrub, and I really want to try to bring that back to try to improve, try to increase agriculture. And he said, funny enough, that goes right along with our natural resources theme. Go for it. So then I met with the minister, and he asked me to be the ministerial assistant in agriculture, which was it's a dream job. I feel quite pleased to be able to do that. And the whole team at the Nova Scotia department. So I have all of their resources, just a phone call or an email away. And the Minister of Agriculture, Minister Moreau, said, go for it. So we've worked with them and developed a list of 4 simple questions that making my way around to all the agricultural producing counties in the province, asking the same questions, compiling the results. I think you folks make number 5 so far. And within us talking to someone in the staff last night, hopefully by the end of this week, if not end of this week, next week, there'll be an interim report come out on agriculture land use, agriculture in the province, and the opportunities and the challenges that are faced as well. But anyway, we'll jump right into it. I believe you folks have all had these questions, or you've all had a chance to see them. So however, Madam Chair, that you'd like to do this, we can go through them one at a time, or it's kind of what we did in Lunenburg, and if that's fine by you guys.
Sure.
There we go.
Yeah, if you're good with that, is council good with that? And I believe Alex and Carrie are online from our planning department. If we want to circle them in as well.
Okay, thank you. What is the status of your current agriculture plan for the municipality? When was it adopted? And have you recently updated it, or is it currently slated for review?
Carly and Alex, would you like to take that one?
Sure. Yeah. Just let us know if you need us to weigh in, Chair. So maybe I'll just kind of touch quickly. We don't have an official agricultural plan. So all of our agricultural policies are within our planning document. So within the 3 municipal planning strategies that we have and the 3 land use bylaws that we have. And important to note, those documents are currently under review. So we're looking at consolidating them all into one set of planning documents. So the topic of agriculture is definitely one of the big topics for that project. And we've done a lot of engagement on that up to date.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Not seeing any lights. Councils, if there's anything you want to add, just turn your light on and I will get to you. Seeing none.
Okay. Number 2, when you have outside engagement about your agriculture plan with the community, producers, and other stakeholders, what are the key concerns raised? Who advocates in your community for the protection and preservation of agriculture land? And is anyone opposed to its preservation or protection?
Anyone? Carrie, Alex?
Sure. So as I kind of mentioned through the plan review project, we have been engaging with the community, but we've also reached out and a few agencies have reached out to us as well, including the Hants County Federation of Agriculture. So we've had kind of a one-on-one meeting and some dialogue with them. And A lot of the concerns that they raised is kind of generally, the protection of agricultural lands, um, agricultural land fragmentation, so concerns around that, as well as our kind of built up urban areas kind of expand and continue to grow, what that means for existing farms that are in close proximity to those built up areas or ones that may be within them. So just concerns about, the future of farming operations around high density areas. Those are kind of the major concerns. Alex, I don't know if I've missed anything there.
The only thing I would add to your statement there, Carrie, is that I don't think in all of the workshops that we've had and one-on-one meetings that we've had, I can't recall an instance where there was anyone who was opposed to preservation and protection of agricultural land. Seems to be a pretty common purpose to fight on behalf of, I suppose.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam
Emily?
Chair.
Yeah.
Through you, Alex, or through Chair Alex, just curious, did you find if there were any farmers that attended these events, and were they in community or more held in planning committee meetings?
Yes, great question. Through you, Chair. We've had a variety of different instances how we've reached out to the public in some of these meetings that we've had. A lot of the background reports and the meetings that were done to inform those background reports were done in the community. A number of years ago, I want to say 5 years ago, most likely. And there were a number of meetings in the more rural areas there that we did have quite a lot of attendance from the agricultural community at those meetings. More recently, I guess they've been more general in nature as we've been going through the plan review. So it wasn't necessarily geared specifically towards agricultural policies. However, those initial meetings that we had informing the background reports, we did have a large turnout from the agricultural community.
Is that good? Okay. Thanks, Alex.
Just got
Oh,
a few left.
Councillor Ivy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I guess in the broad strokes on the question, that something that we've all seen and know that we've had concerns here over the last 3 or 4 years, specifically as it relates to access to fresh water. And the access to fresh water was, I'm going to say it was precipitated by the fact that we live in a dual salt freshwater estuary area that creates challenges for what we have as it relates to the river and the basin that we sit on. So that was an issue that came up in a significant way. And then in the last summer with the drought issue, and again, the need for fresh water and water resources, that's probably been one of the larger hotspots that we've had related to hearing from the agricultural community. And that came from farmers, the Hants Agricultural Association, which I may have the name wrong, but to that effect, that I would say has been a key point. And then the one other thing that I would just add as a general comment that we hear or see around the table is when development butts up against agricultural property, and a developer may have a greater interest in moving in on what might be land protected otherwise, depending on the ranking of it. So just as a general comment, that's what I think we've heard here, but others may have heard other.
Thank you. Councillor Yanish.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. The other important issue related to the protection of farmland is the preservation or the loss of dike land, and the current the lack of repair work that's being done to dikes, and the lack of a long-term commitment to maintain them. And I think that there's a lot of farmers, and there have been quite a few meetings, not so much in the past year, but in the 2 years previous to that, that were very concerned about the loss of dike land, and particularly the policy whereby the by letting dikes breach, the government can say that they are creating wetlands, which is very beneficial when it comes to road construction, because then they when they're destroying wetlands with road construction, they can balance that off by saying, well, we've created new wetlands by breaching the dikes. And so from a farmer's perspective, that's a little bit hard to swallow. And so I think that that issue still is on people's minds.
Okay. Sure, MLA She Richard.
Yeah, so I appreciate that and have heard, I guess what I can say to that is that situation is not anything that anyone's being forced into do. It was a study that was commissioned prior to us and our direction. And I can't necessarily speak that we're in the same space, but I can say for certain that it would be lands that were heavily grown or rocked that potential farmers wouldn't ever be able to use. As for dike maintenance, if you just kind of look around in community, there is actually quite a bit happening right around Elderkin and all around the Tregothic. As part of the twinning project and as well down through Avondale. Our issue that we run into is the same act that has been kind of holding up the other freshwater problems that we have because of the Fishery Act changes and DFO's ratios as they pertain to doing actual work in the dike. I've learned quite a bit about it, and let's just say it's pretty near impossible to work through that, what they need, and the certain period of time that the work can get done is very challenging, because if we don't get permission from DFO during the freeze, we can't really get on the dikes. But there is a lot of, and you can probably add more to that conversation, but it isn't anything that any farmer ever would have to worry about as something they were forced into doing. And if they need work done, then that's part of the bringing the marsh bodies together and working through that process. But I definitely would be here to support a farmer that was feeling that way. Dave, do you want to add anything?
I think that's good.
Okay.
Counselor Remy.
Through you, Chair, I have heard from some of my residents, most of the stuff has already been said, like as far as losing farmland to development, that's a big concern. Drainage and flooding impacts on the agricultural land, and then climate change affecting growing conditions and changing those things up.
Okay, Mayor Zabian.
Yep. First, happy Agriculture Day. It's good timing you guys are here today. And thanks, Minister or Minister Assistant, to come down as well and speak to us about this. West Hants is very rural, and we have a very strong agricultural community here. And the Federation of Agriculture are incredible advocates for preservation and sustainability and everything agriculture. So they're a great resource as well. I think what I've heard mainly, I think all the topics have been touched on quite eloquently from my colleagues here. The preservation of fresh water is really important. Last year's droughts really highlighted that. And then when we start speaking to highway projects or mineral extraction or resource extraction, etc., it's always a concern, especially in our rural areas, of the preservation of fresh water and water resources. So just as a note there. But here in West Hants, and this was put into our documents many moons ago, predating all of us around this table, but the need for an agrologist report when it comes to development of agricultural lands. And if you have somebody wishing to do that, a part of our process is an agrologist report that pretty much says the land cannot be farmed, either even though it may be zoned, but it it just has no value in farming for multiple reasons. It could be heavily treed or heavily rocked or not the right slope. I'm not a farmer by any means. There's probably other reasons as well, but that's a good thing that West Hants has in its documents. So going forward again with the new plan review that we are working on, there could be other protections in there as well. But just wanted to highlight those for your record as well.
Great. Thank you.
That's interesting that that's part of the requirement, having an agrologist sign off on.
Great. No, Councillor Scott McLean.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Assistant Minister Bowlby. I represent District 2, a lot of dormant, underutilized farmland. And a lot of it needs to be reclaimed. And the financial burden to put it back into production is so great that it's one of the reasons it's not in production. So in the future, is there any, or could there be financial assistance to put this land back into production?
I can't speak for programs at this time, but I know that that is something that the minister is working on as ongoing conversations. An excavator can clean up land pretty quick, and with the price of land, Kings County especially, a beautiful land, probably some of the best in the province. Of course, we have good land in Annapolis as well, but $10,000 an acre is not that far out of realm, and there's some along the 101 between the Aylesford Berwick corridor that sold for $16,000 an acre. So land's going up, it's getting more and more expensive, and it is expensive to clear land for sure, but it's faster nowadays than what it used to be. But that's something I will bring up with the minister.
Thanks.
Seeing no more lights, we're good to move on.
As a municipal council, where does the protection of ag land rank against other key priorities, such as the development of housing, commercial growth, transport, or other concerns? Is your council focused on the buildup of urban area when it comes to housing, or opening up new subdivisions in order to preserve rural zoning for agriculture?
I'm not going to call on you, Carrie. This is a council question, so I'll let our councillors answer that first. Mayor Zabian.
It's a great question. I think we're in a good spot where we are currently undertaking our plan review, and again, council still has to debate and go through it in detail after public consultation, and I'm more than confident that this will be discussed quite in detail. Again, we're fortunate here in West Hants. We have a very strong rural area. We have a very strong three strong urban areas. And of course, I believe, in my opinion anyways, we definitely want to develop where we are currently serviced. It only makes sense to concentrate your development activity in the areas where you have water, sewer, and other infrastructures. And in that way, we do protect our rural way of life and our very fertile agricultural land, such as in Councillor McLean's district or Councillor Whedon's district. I think every district here in West Hants has good agricultural land, but it's definitely going to be a balance going forward. And I'm hoping our documents really do that, gives that balance justice.
Thank you.
Councillor Yanish.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's a really important question to raise. Just for an example, I had a phone call today from a farmer who has guardian dogs to protect his livestock. And because of the really high numbers of coyotes right now, those dogs are very active, particularly at night. Mm-hmm. And there are some people that just bought a beautiful lot and house in the country right next door to this farm. And they are now extremely upset that they have to listen to these dogs. So there's a very serious conflict. And they're not going to be happy when they realize that thankfully we have provincial legislation that protects farmers in cases like that, so that they continue to practice farming as they do. But I think it's something that we have to keep stay on top of and acknowledge, recognize, and also lobby for farmers to say that even, sometimes even what's the smallest instance of somebody trying to farm can create conflict. And we have to continue to protect the producers.
Great. Counselor Ivy.
Thank you, Chair. I think similarly where we see this potential conflict of these issues and sort of touched on with regards to the dike land by Councillor Yanish, but as it relates to marshland and where the marsh bodies may or may not be active. So when they're not active, that then has them going to the province to try and get the workaround to be able to do development in marshland. And so I'm in Windsor, and the flooding, the nature of the flooding in the area, well, the marshland in this area is highly valuable for soaking up the water during a major rain event. And so while it can be appealing to look to have potential development taking place, especially in a small urban core, because Windsor is so restricted based on its area because of the surrounding tidal properties that exist around it, it's just something to be conscious of, that if the marsh bodies aren't active at the end of that, the province really needs to lead on that and looking to protect those areas. I think the regulations are there, and so easy as well to be swayed to look at it. I just think it's something worth taking note of, that those marsh bodies serve a purpose in preventing greater flooding in areas where it would be far worse if we didn't have them. So. Thank you.
Counselor Larry Pinch.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Just from a personal perspective, we had a project this year that was agrivoltaics. So in an urban area where they can kind of combine agriculture with industrial buildings that are using energy and kind of trying to offset like their draw from the grid, and being able to give back that way and use the land at the same time. I think it's really cool to see those projects in urban settings, and if those were possibilities in the future for other places, I think that that's a great way to kind of marry the two of them. So you're still having your growth in those, growth centers that we have, the three that we've identified, but you can also kind of bring in that agricultural piece as well, so that it's not lost as you're developing in those areas too. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
It's an interesting comment. I had a solar provider get into my office a few months back and showed me what they're doing in the UK. So Melissa's field and my field, and we have an old rock wall that's been there forever and ever and ever. And what they're doing in the UK is removing that rock wall and erecting a fence, but the fence is solar panels, so that we put the solar panels in together as a combined unit. We both take advantage of the electricity that's created from it. We still have our fields defined. The field is not being totally planted in solar panels, so we're still creating electricity. We're still maintaining our field boundaries, and we're both getting a little bit of an income from it. So it's a the opportunities are, we look around the planet, they're vast. So it's pretty interesting.
And I'll just add to that, the QE2 design, the new building, is actually the roof of it is all green space. So vegetable gardens, grass, like as if you were outside in a park, which I didn't realize until this weekend. Somebody was telling me about it. So I do want to look into that. I haven't seen it, but I'm going to look into that because I found that really interesting, because it's good for mental health, but it also offsets the natural land that they're using to do that. So very interesting.
Very good. Seeing no more lights, we can continue on.
Last but not least, Does your municipality support any food security initiatives? I know that you do. Community gardens, food banks, community-owned agriculture infrastructure. Does council see a connection between food security and preserving farmland and the presence of agriculture producers within the region?
Mayor Zabian.
Yep, I believe we have multiple community gardens throughout the region. Some on municipal land, others not so much. But council has also supported the Windsor Food Bank, ensuring that its funds go towards the actual supply of food to the community rather than expenses as power, rent,
Right.
all that stuff. The Hansport Food Bank, we've supported and they're currently housed in a municipal building as well. So there's probably other initiatives that don't come to my mind at this point, but anybody else can chime in as well.
I'll just mention the Station Food Hub, who was the old Newport Station School that was purchased, and they have renovated, and they have a lot of they do mashed potato line, the potato line. They bring a lot of products in from Kings County to reproduce. So yeah, that would be another private industry in our area. Any others that council wants to speak of? Councillor Larry Pinch?
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. I think it might have been specifically apples, but Station Food Hub supports the schools through apples that they're purchasing from producers that are local. So then you're supporting your economy while also, helping the farmers to keep their land and also, feeding fresh produce to our growing youth that are up and coming. So I think that's really cool, the initiatives that they do. Be nice to see more of that.
They are certainly leading the way. We just went to the industry update this week and they're actually Nova Scotia, there was three organizations mentioned, and I'm not going to remember the third one because it's Britain and I can't recall, but the Station Food Hub and Made with Local and the third one. So it's called the Idea program, and that's what they're trying to do is those apples are actually seconds, ones that aren't well enough for the shelves, and the same with the carrots. So it's like supply and demand, but procurement has changed a lot where local producers can work with institutions so they can do the scale of size so that we're not saying all of a sudden you have to supply your carrots to every hospital in the province, but maybe together Hants County Federation can come together and supply them for one hospital, our hospital. So those are some ideas that some of this is a lot of the programs coming together, but I will say that any idea that you think of or anything cool that you see in the community of innovative ideas, the minister is very interested in some of those things. Like Abundant Acres does pretty cool stuff with the way they use their, help me with the word, is it geothermal? So that they can produce longer seasons. And that's other thing we're looking at with weather events. How do we extend seasons? And, maybe it's that you plant a raspberry that takes you further into a different season and kind of diversify what you are growing so that when you have these horrific weather events, you're still sort of producing in a longer window. So it's pretty exciting and got a good team over here. So agriculture, I would say between Tom Taggart, Dave, and I were the three biggest agriculture people around our caucus table, and Palmer, Chris Palmer, of course, which represent most of the Avon Valley. So I'm really proud of what council and the area does. And I think that we balance very well the need for a growing community and as well as agriculture and resources and fresh water and looking into the future, with the changing times, it's more important than ever that natural resources, in particular, our traditional natural resources, come back to the forefront.
Mayor Zabian?
Yep, just a couple of others. The Avon Community Farmers Market operates all summer long that council supports and has upgraded its park area with electricity and stuff to allow them to put on a better experience for people. The food to table map, I believe staff are working on, and that'll be released soon. So farm food to table locally here in West Hants. That's a great initiative that I'm excited to see in the near future. Again, we do have the Agricultural Society, who control a very valuable part of our community, asset wise and land wise, and buildings for a congregation of all our agricultural producers, horse, equestrian, etc. The sky's the limit with those lands as well, and any investment that the province feels in the future may be a good synergy with projects and them. I know they can add more value when it comes to supporting our agricultural community. I think that's it. There's one more thought, but it lost me. But there's a lot of support here, and I think council's done a fantastic job at pitching in when and where we can. So
Perfect. There you go.
The doing this and scooting around the province, there's some of the different types of agriculture. I've been to a saffron farm in Shelburne. And a saffron farm, like, isn't that supposed to be grown in India? So my wife and I went down. He has a half an acre, and it starts to produce when the seasonal temperatures drop off and the weather starts to get cold. We still have sunny days, so mid-October, and it lasts for 4 to 6 weeks. A half an acre, he picks it twice a day, and on the high point of the sunny days and the temperature's right, half an acre is yielding him $6,000 a day. He's growing black tea, and then how you manipulate it, you can make oolong tea or jasmine tea. There's a rice farmer in Annapolis County on the way to Victoria Beach. He's been there for, he's only got about 1/10 of an acre, but he's had 1/10 of an acre successful crop 11 years in a row, with drought, with floods, with everything, 11 years in a row. And we're promoting him and his methods to other people in the province. There's a lady that's growing loofah sponges. So, you know, the loofahs that you scrub with, that's going on in Kings County. This is something that you grow in a greenhouse. So it's not just cattle, and it's not just grain and corn. It's incredible what we can do here. In 1999 on our farm in Aylesford, I wanted to plant cherries, and I was told that, no, you can't do it. And the cherries that we planted in 99 are still producing, and we're the biggest cherry. My farm used to be the biggest producer of cherries. So there is opportunities. And the thing that really drives this home in agriculture, land protection, and working with the community and living in the community, if you want to see how it's gone absolutely bad, go fly out to BC, go to the Okanagan, to Summerland. So my son works at the research station there, and they're the about 99% of the cherries grown in North America have parentage from that federal facility. But it's beautiful land and sloped, and then on the top of the hills is just incredible land, and there's grapes everywhere, and land's $100,000 an acre. And there are homes 4 feet from a fence, and 4 feet on the other side of the fence are cherry trees and vineyards and peach trees. And the farmers are really struggling to be able to look after their crops, to pick their crops, while the neighbors, like the dogs and the issues, are just, it's incredible what they have to face every day. So whatever we can do to get ahead of that, so that we don't have anything that looks like that, because it's really something else. I can just imagine the plight of those folks. So I appreciate the fact that Hants County Council, you guys are strong in protecting and looking at agriculture and integrating it. And I applaud the work that you've done, and I know that you'll be doing in the future. Is there any messages, anything that you would like to tell Melissa and I that we can take back to agriculture related, that your concerns or issues or something, messages that you'd like to share?
Councillor Yanish, not sure if you have a message, but you might have a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, I do have a message. And I think it's great that you're talking about all of the the innovations like climate batteries and saffron, et cetera. That's very, very important to, experiment with these types of crops and see if we can get crops to adapt to our climate. But some of the more traditional ones are still important as well. And I have to think of the livestock industry, particularly cattle and sheep, and forage crops. And was it last week or 2 weeks ago, the federal government announced that they were going to close the Nepan experimental farm. And I think that would be a great shame because it's the last facility of its kind in Eastern Canada. And I think there's some really important work that they can do there that no one else can do. So if I have a message is that perhaps you could make some noise on behalf of the farm community and to try and keep the Nepan experimental farm open. Thank you.
Thank you. Friday night, I had a really nice conversation with the minister and had an idea. And last night I had a Zoom meeting with his executive director and presented my idea, and it will probably be going forward this week in their meetings and talks. I know that Sunday at the Premier's Q&A at the AGM in Halifax, Doug Bacon from up that way, old Farmer Bacon, he was asking the Premier and promoting doing something, maintaining that facility, and asking that the Premier and the other 3 Atlantic provinces to request something to the federal Minister of Agriculture. But what a beautiful community pasture it would be. And the stocking rates on that would be higher than at the Manuti Marsh. It's the saltwater marsh. I mean, and if we can get our hands on it, then we can figure out what to do with it. But if we can get our hands on it before it's gone, would be great. So they're already facing pressure from a grumpy old farmer.
Well, that's great. It sounds like you're going to advocate on everyone's behalf on that. So
Do
that's
my
a
best.
good start. Seeing no more lights, I want to thank Carrie and Alex for joining us to help with those first few questions. And thanks MLA Shi Richard and Minister Advisor Bowlby. And we appreciate you coming in.
Thank you so
You can
much.
stay and join us, or you can make that long drive back home.
That hour and a half drive is looming large, so I think
I would think so.
I'll bid adieu. Thank you again, everyone. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, council, we're going to move right along to 8 unfinished business, postpone motions. There are none. 9 reports. We have 4 reports. They were all in our package. So we'll start with A, CAO activity update information report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll hit some of the highlights of my report. Of course, under governance, some of the past meetings that council would have attended. Under the administration section, the warming center, just to give you an update on that. Speaking with Leslie this morning, that she feels everything's complete, but they're waiting for confirmation from the province. So that was my call with her this morning, and that was the update. So there's no indication of anything outstanding. I think the $2,500 deductible, that was an outstanding item when last reported or discussed, has been addressed and covered, I guess we'll say, by the province. So to my understanding, it's just kind of some of the last policy review and hopefully confirmation and hopefully award. So that's the update. With respect to budgets, lots of activity happening at the department level as folks are working on budgets and presenting to Carly, operating and capital for council's review here in the month of March. Audit committee met, and the audit committee reviewed the 24-25 audit, as well as the MMP water operational audit. Previously emailed council, apologies for the late council cancellation of the special council meeting, but those 2 items will be brought forward to the council meeting in February, as it is an advisory committee or a committee report directly to council. Under the section of planning, of course, the Windsor Courthouse remains for sale. And just a reminder, I did have a question or two. Our realtor made a change in company, so the listing was down for a day or two and then reposted. So lots of inquiries to date. Hopefully it all translates into proposals for council to consider at the end of the month. So again, as those proposals are submitted, then we'll work to prepare them. And then during the month of March, we'll find some time, very likely in camera, for council to review the proposals and hopefully pick one and move forward with that site. But again, lots of inquiries to date, so that's favorable. Under Public Works, just a note or two. First, about the Hants Border Sewage Treatment Facility. And I just note here for council's knowledge that we're kind of bumping up against capacity with the County of Kings and their interpretation of capacity and their operational challenges that they're having right now are somewhat restrictive in our ability to get approvals, more so on the medium scale, I think we would say. So we are continuing to work with the county and internally here to try to find some movement on that facility, so that we can, get some better dialogue and hopefully get some of these developments in the both Hants and Kings County moving forward as they deal with some of their challenges. Mills Lake Water Diversion Pipe Project. I just bring this back to council as part of my report here this evening, as you did have the benefit of having a session early last week where we talked about the project and you were given some advice on how you may consider moving forward. So my report just continues to highlight the current direction is for staff to move forward with an in-house option. Of course, the project is a bit of a standstill as council defeated the motion around the award to Parker Excavating. But we do still have, I guess what we call outstanding, or we still have the direction of council to move forward on the in-house staff report. So if there is any reconsideration by council, there may be an opportunity to discuss it here this evening if you choose, or at a future council meeting. Without direction, we will continue with the report. That is the direction from council. But I just put that back in front of council for consideration if anybody wants to move or have further discussion around that. Finally, Protective Services, we have the Fire Services Director and the closing has occurred on that. And we are now in the process of shortlisting and carrying out interviews. And we have a representative from the Nova Scotia Department of Emergency Management. It's going to sit with us in the interview team to conduct those interviews. So we're moving on that as well. So those are some highlights, Madam Chair. If there's any questions, happy to do my best to answer them.
Perfect. Thank you. Are there any questions? Mayor Zabian.
Thank you. For you, Chair, just I guess more to council in regards to CIO's report there on the Mill Lake diversion pipe. Again, I wasn't at the last meeting, but just speaking to a couple of councilors, there seems to be some uncertainty with council which way it wishes to proceed. I know council defeated the award of the tender, and they're unsure if they still want to do it in-house or not, but they have a request for a report to come back. But it may be more prudent at this point for council to just shelf the project, put it aside right now, and move on. We still have budget coming up in about a month's time, so it may give council a better idea of where it stands financially and priorities going forward. So I think council, I'd like to make a motion that council rescind its direction at the January 27th meeting, Chair, and I'll put that forward now to council for consideration. That Committee of the Whole recommends council rescind the January 27th, 2026 motion that council request a report from staff on doing the Mill Lakes pipe diversion in-house for the February Committee of the Whole meeting.
Moved by the mayor to rescind, seconded by Councillor John Smith. Any questions on the motion to rescind? Councillor Ivey.
Yeah, so this is on the second portion, with staff bringing a report back, correct? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it's to rescind the motion that council passed at the council meeting in January.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, I don't have it to reread, but are we all clear on the motion? We're rescinding to have the in-house. Everyone good? Okay, do you have that up for vote, or you want to do it by show of hands? Easier. Okay. We can do by show of hands, okay? So all those in favor to rescind the motion to do it in-house? Show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All those opposed? 2. Counselor Bob Morton and Counselor Scott McLean opposed. You good, Clerk Snair? Perfect. Thank you. Is there Counselor Paul Morton?
Just the CEO on the Hants Border sewer plant. Do we have many options or just wait and hold for them? Do we have any plan to go forward?
Yep. So just a little background. Of course, we have historic sounds, maybe is the wrong word, but longstanding agreement with the County of Kings. They are the owner operator of that facility. So we do have a formula that gets revisited, we'll say, from time to time, which more or less serves as how they dedicate a percentage of the capacity to the plant. So it's more or less 70-30, with us being 70% and the County of Kings being 30, and the operating costs and all of those items are reflected in that. So we're trying to revisit some of the improvements, I guess we would say, and predominantly in your area where we've had some separation in the past and some improvements just on what we feel is the load or the volume that are entering that facility. So for us, we feel like our capacity is being better used or even reduced to some degree, which should provide us with some capacity. So we're just trying to exercise all the options within the agreement and at the operations level right now. I'm not trying to elevate this yet to it being a council discussion. But we are having some challenges right now. So we're having some internal meetings and we will have some discussions with the county and then we'll see where we land. I think folks are familiar. They have had some odor issues there as they had with some of the other facilities, and we've had some of those challenges ourselves. So it's kind of how do we recover and how do we address those things so development and growth can continue instead of kind of being in a stalemate because its operation isn't maybe where we all want it to be. So, right.
Great. Counselor Larry Pinch.
Thank you through you, Chair. So just to follow up on that, CAO, the last line in that section kind of says you'll be at an impasse if, nothing further progresses. So do we still feel like there's still some room before we reach that impasse?
We do. We're hopeful. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions or anything from the CAO's report? Counselor Ivy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Through you to the CIO. 2 reports that that weren't at the audit committee meeting, both of which were highlighted to be circulated. And the first one is the management letter that wasn't at the meeting. And technically, that typically would have been there before we endorsed the approval of the audited statements. That they go hand in hand. But is that because it sounded like it was churning in an email that night, but we still haven't seen that. Is that in the works to be circulated to the audit committee? Or what is the plan for that?
That is the plan. I'm not sure, Director Rochon, if we received that yet in written format. She's saying no. So we have not received that yet. When we do, we will circulate it. And I'm hearing what you're saying in advance of any consideration, perhaps at the council level. At least that's your position and concern. And it is traditional that we would receive that as part of the audit process. I think the auditor communicated that, but the expectation is that it would arrive in written form. Yes.
Yeah, my intention is as much as just that we don't lose sight of it, that the meeting was a week ago and you really should have, the committee member should have seen it by now is my general comment on it. And then equally with the MNP report that's referenced in the presentation, that it wasn't available for the meeting a week ago as well, which sounded like it was imminent to be circulated to audit as well. And just any status update or change on that.
So we're to be looking over your shoulder, Director Roshan. Have we received the final version of that from MNP? We have not received that yet either. Okay, thank you.
So they're not waiting for more feedback from us on what was referred to as the final draft. Like it's, I think that's what it ended up being called in the meeting, but
Yeah.
Are they waiting for anything from us before we get a final version or?
I don't feel like the audit process is. I think the MNP, there was my recollection, again, we had the benefit of going through the draft with them, the entire report. There was a modeling piece towards the end that was part of the report, that there were some discrepancies, some questions around that model. So they were at least working on that piece, and Carly's confirming again over your left shoulder there. So yeah, so they were working on that, and then we would get the final draft.
That sounds like that would have been part two, if I can call.
Fair.
There was two parts, one water and
Yep.
the other, right? So
Yeah.
Okay, so that's that. Yeah, that's all that I had there. So the other item that you had raised, which just to be sure that we're clear here, that we've rescinded the motion for doing our own work on the Mill Lake diversion pipe, but the original motion remains defeated. There is nothing being done with that. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Mayor Zabian?
So council is clear, it's the motion of council was not to do it in-house, was not to do that project in-house. It was asking for a report to come back to council on costs to do in-house. So just, I know it's been referenced that we are doing it in-house, but council didn't get to that point yet either. So I just want to clarify that for the record as well. So.
Okay. Seeing no other lights, we will move on to reports, general operating.
I'm going to try and talk as loud as I can because I can't pull the mic any closer. So thank you, Your Worship. Through you, the following three reports have been circulated within your package. So I'm not going to go over them too in detail with you, but I will highlight some key notes. So on the general operating budget, we are seeing that we've had a decrease since our October report of 0.2% in the surplus deficit projection. We are also seeing that in comparison to November of last year, we're seeing that our projection is actually up 0.3% since last year. So that's positive news. And then also through this process, if everything occurred equally, over the year, we would be at 66.67%. Right now, we're at 56.5%. And if we look at where we were at November of last year, we had about 58.7% utilized. So we're keeping within trends from in comparison from last November to this November. Overall, we're seeing a 0.1 decrease in revenue projections based on the previous report of October 2025 on the revenue side. And then we're seeing an increase of 0.1% on the expense side. Overall, this resulted in a decrease of the projected surplus of 86,279. And I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, Director Roshan. Are there any questions on Counselor Ivy.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Director Rashan. Thank you for the report. And I'll probably have this on this and the other two reports just to get clarity on timing because of billing. So this report references November 30th. So because we got other items here that aren't quarterly billed, taxes and the like, it's not accurate for, at least for me, to look at this and see it as two quarterly billings. This is recurring billing up to November for items that just keep on rolling through. We still have tax payments coming in and so on. Am I correct in that, Director Rashan? Like, this is not a quarterly two billing period, it's more, right?
No, so yes, on the sewer, no on the taxes. Taxes are billed once annually, so they go in July. So that would be the case. Of course, other revenues, some of them come quarterly, some of them come in 2 installments, so they can vary from year to year. Our municipal financial capacity grant, for example, comes in 2 installments. But our hosting fees for the landfill come in 4 installments. So in January, we usually receive our last installment for that. So not everything would incur.
That kind of
Yeah.
an allocation.
Yeah.
So when I look at sewer then, where we've got actuals for what I believe I can say is 2 billing periods for that at 1.8, that puts us in good stead to exceed what we have in the budget for sewer. My simple math would be I double 2 quarters to get 4, and I know it's not fully equal throughout the term, but am I in the ballpark with
So
that?
what you see in my forecast is what I based on, and I'm projecting that we're gonna be 21% over. Yeah.
Okay. And we don't break sewer out. It's on the expense side. It's embedded within the environmental health services. How difficult to break sewer out, given that we treat it utility-like? I know it's not a utility, but we treat it in that fashion that it's connected to water. Is that a difficult thing for us at some point to transition this report where we see it broken out, or is that?
I mean, we can see it broken out. It would just, when you're looking at the overall budget, we would have to add those 2 numbers together to get the environmental health
Services, right? Okay, just something I think that could be helpful in knowing what that looks like, because typically we don't see that, but sewer being similar to water, it's one of those ones where the plus on the top side and the
Yeah, and right now I'm projecting sewer to be at about 2.4 on the expense side. So, however, there has been I've been monitoring a few accounts within the sewer just because of changes within the sewer bylaw, just seeing how they perform this year, because it's our first year with the new bylaw.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's good for me on this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing no more lights, Director Rashan, we can move on to water utility operating.
Okay, excellent. So not much has changed other than, of course, our projected surplus in this area. So that has been nice to see. So what I have here is pretty much the same. The biggest change is due to the customer billing under rate sales, and that has the benefit of the 3rd quarter. Though it's not posted in the actuals, what I'm doing there is I'm using the 3rd quarter to see what our average over the 3 quarters was, to then look at projecting and then comparing it to our previous year. This quarter also in December is usually our down ramping, and we usually see like the utilization petering off before the 4th quarter. So we'll kind of continue that trend, but it's about 19.5% in comparison to the 21% for sewer. And of course, that's because we have individuals who only have water, and then we have individuals who only have sewer. So they're not going to be exact matches, but it is trending on the higher side. And especially now that we have the results too from the full summer and fall from when we were experiencing the drought conditions, it also made it easier to forecast that budget line. The other item that you'll probably see change in the next forecast is the transmission and distribution. So that has been flagged, and I know Director Richard has been going through that and reviewing it. So there might be some reallocations of capital items in there coming up for the next report. I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, Director Rashan. Is there any questions? Counselor John Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question around the administration and general line.
Yep.
Under the expenditures, it says that administration and general expense are projecting higher due to estimated depreciation costs. Wondering if you can just comment on that?
Yeah.
What the depreciation costs are?
So as I mentioned in a previous update, we had a higher than expected depreciation cost at year end in 24-25, and that's just because more of our work in progress items that we have been budgeting for became online, which meaning they became depreciable. And I believe this also came up in audit committee because there is a chart of tangible capital assets within our notes and within our financial statements that breaks down our on-take of capital assets and the amortization associated to those. So it's just the amortization cost, which is by the utility called depreciation. So, yeah.
So are these things that aren't online yet, and then we're putting them online, so that's when they start depreciating?
Yes,
So
we
that's the
can't.
reason why?
Yep, we can't depreciate an asset until they're finished.
Okay. So would that be like the infrastructure in a street?
Portions of that, yes, it would be anything like what we'll see probably, but hopefully by the end of this year is the water tower. So that's a big project again, not depreciated based on the funding level, but depreciated based on the total cost. So that's another thing. We may not necessarily be funding it all by debt servicing or reserves. We might have grants, but it's the entire amount that goes into the capital asset account. So when you're looking at those numbers, like the water tank, for example, instead of the 3 million that we paid based on the 50-50 grant, we would be putting 6 million into the asset account to be depreciated.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Seeing no light. Oh, Counselor Ivy.
Yeah, just wanted to hang back there. So a couple here through you, Chair, to Director Rashan. Same thing here, Director Rashan, although you may have thrown me a little curve there when you broached into the third quarter, being able to see some of the numbers. So on this with rate sales, they're not up to November 30th. It's the two billings. Again, am I correct on that? And so knowing how we do our billing, that and meters represent the largest portion of what we see in there, meter readings taking place. I'm just going to pick a round number like the 5th of September to when that last billing showed up on bills. So that's not a full quarter for what we deal with. So how do you deal with those other 25 days? Like, is there some other way, like, do we have 2 full quarters in this number, or do we have a quarter and 3 quarters in what we're tracking here? Can you?
So when I'm doing my projections, I base them very much on averages and of course, previous year financial data. So when I'm looking at this, it's not so much I'm looking at the number of day average. I'm looking at, okay, this is how much we've billed over this amount of time. What does that look like? So with that, because we're always going to have those little, because we have it at year end too, right? We can't read right on March 31st. We have a little bit of period there where we read beforehand and then bill in April and then accrue it back. So.
Okay, so in doing that, and I'm mostly focused on the actuals that you have here, if I could just, so when you do that, do you actually read the meters again, like do a 3-week read into the coming year, or you just do an estimate based on average per day and roll that back, or how do you do that?
I go based on what's been billed through the meter. I don't do forecasts because again, we make up for it on the other end. So next year we might be, because that March to the March 31st will be in this year. So
Right.
from 2024. So we're not short. It's just because there's always 365 days.
So we're straddling.
Yeah.
It's safe to use that term just for the, okay. So that's great. Thank you for helping me understand that. And so again, we're looking quite good there for 2 quarters based on the forecast without getting into the detail of that. That's a good thing. Fire protection, which you'd advised us last month, gets billed once at the end of the year, I believe, per the minutes, if I have that correct. Within the Utility and Review Board articles, though, it's required that be billed by the end of September, I believe. And so we don't show that yet. Is it that we're that we hold that in a reserve, or how do we treat that, that it doesn't show up even though it's been billed or paid by the 30th?
Yeah, so that one in particular has to go through a review every year because it's based on the number of hydrants. So we have to get it billed out. So that one in particular, again, is not in there yet, but will be. It's just waiting on the number of hydrants for the various other municipal units that we have to bill as part of that fire protection.
So it's not, we don't wait till fully to the end of this year, although we're almost there now,
Yeah.
right? We're
Yep.
getting pretty close. So,
Yep.
okay, that's that. And admin in general already touched on. The last item that I have noted here is the non-operational expenditures that we have, which looks to be right now, the forecast pretty close to the same as the budget. I know from the previous study that was done, it was projecting a much higher number. So is that much lower now as well because projects haven't come online yet? Or what is it that holds that number as low as it does? Are we at risk if that comes in $1 million higher?
So through you, Chair, to Councillor Ivy, that is pretty predictable
Mm-hmm.
because we have our debt servicing in that, which is set based on debenture, our interest, which is set based on debenture,
Mhm.
and our transfer to sludge reserves, which is based on the rules and regulations. So the only variable within that category is our capital at a revenue, which again, there's not a lot of variable there because anything over the 76 would have been reported to council through an approval report.
Right.
So, and as of right now, nothing has been gone to council that's over capital over revenue funding from the utility.
Okay. That's great. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Seeing no other lights, we can move on to water consumption.
All right, so in the water consumption, not too much of change. We reflect the October quarterly billing here. We also have our Q3, which is starting to build because this would include anything from October and or November that would have closed. So for you, we've had 23 closed accounts in the month of November and 3 adjustments. To date, since April 1st, we have 227 closed accounts, which represents 5.39% of our total utility customers. And we have had 21 adjustments, which represents 0.5% of our total utility customers. So we're going right on par with where we are based on the financial side. When we look at the actual consumption, we're projecting right now, well, we're not projecting, we're reporting about a 58.2% variance. I am expecting to see that change as we look at the non-revenue water coming up because as we know, December we had a pretty major water main break. So we'll be reporting a little bit on that. So you'll see that non-revenue water change. Currently right now, we're only reporting 2 water main breaks within that number and authorized flushing. So that should change next update for you folks.
Great. Counselor Ivy. Oh, you still, so you have your, okay. Counselor Wheaton.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you to Director Rashawn. Thank you for the report, Director Rashawn. One thing that kind of stands out to me, though, is each quarter we're consuming more water. And I'm just kind of wondering if historically, if we changed through the quarters this year with the drought and the mandatory conservation, I would have thought that those quarters would have dropped the consumption. But each quarter for each meter has gone up quite substantially. I was just wondering if, if everybody was supposedly conserving, it just seems to be going the wrong way. Any comment on that?
Very interesting comment and question, Counselor Wheaton. I actually had the same thought, which is why I adjusted my projections on the last report. However, when we got our billing in and we started looking at it, we actually had more billing on the bulk water side. So it kind of evened out a little bit when we look at it on a consumption basis. Yeah.
Thank you.
Counselor Ivy.
Okay, thank you. I needed that question to be able to ask this one. So through you, Chair, to Director Rashawn, to the question that was just asked. So we know that the meter reads, the top set of numbers here, that those are structured on a quarterly basis. And so we've got 2 billings in there. But is it the same way with the bulk masters? I think we've heard here that they're reading those bulk master meters on a monthly basis. I'm not sure that they still are. But based on that, are we showing more bulk water going through the master meters because we're an additional 2 or 3 months built into those compared to at the tap? Am I clear on that?
Yeah, so I may get Director Richard to come up and just answer some of the more operational related questions on how frequently they're reading. But as part of our discussions with the team, we try and align our read week that we have with our customers with the read week that we select our bulk master meters so that they do align. Because for example, if we don't align those as close as possible, it's going to create a natural variance anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, great questions, both on the consumption and the variance. So a little bit to add, if I could just back up a bit on, we actually seen our consumption go up overall during the drought period, and that even matched the water plant flows. Mainly that was, the bulk water deliveries. We had quite a period where we were giving away water at a public works shop, and one of the bulk water stations was down. So that was about a $23,000 expense, to the public works operations budget just on that amount of water that went through. So, and on the bulk water meters, at some point I would like to see these go away, because really we are a consolidated utility. And as we build out the system, as development happens, these bulk waters like the Underwood Drive, the Wentworth Road, the Dill Road one, now they're not really designed as a one whole system, because we used to lock down zones of that system. So only water flowed through that zone. Now that we're all one with development and moving water like it should be, to increase that shelf life, some of these meters are being inaccurate. So, and again, with the report that was with the water technician, we need to get a little more frequent with our reads. Having quarterly reads really isn't valuable data when it comes to tracking usage and comparing it to the water treatment plant. So at some point, we really want to transition to have this water consumption report be more accurate. And along with, we're hoping these consumption reports from the revenue side are going to continue to increase, more accurate meters, less unauthorized use, less, theft of water, potentially having more inspections within our systems. We noticed actually one of our facilities that uses quite a bit of water, a bypass that was opened. Not sure how it got opened, but so that water was being bypassed. It wasn't being registered through the meter in one of our own municipal facilities. So if we're doing that, how many others out there have that type of thing? So these are the things we want to really tighten up. But and just to speak on this whole water consumption report and the large variance, we certainly want to work to get that to closer amount, so it's not that large a number.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, that's good. I think I'm good with that. And the only just closing out question on this, if I could, is related to, so are the bulk master meters generally in sync with the meter read timings? I realize there's going to be a day or whatever, or a couple of days, but they're generally around the same.
It certainly varies, and it could vary substantially. We try to get that, when they're reading, but there could be a lull when they're reading that zone. It could take 3 or 4 days.
Sure.
And then the bulk water meter gets read at a different time. So it's
And
not really accurate based on that, the way we're doing that.
close,
If
but
we
not
had
guaranteed.
automatic reads everywhere where we could, read the whole service area in, 20 seconds, and then also read the bulk water meter, if it was in that zone, it would be a lot accurate, but it's just, we're not there yet. So to be, totally honest.
No, so we're close, but not something that you'd look to take to the bank.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm good.
Okay, I
Thank you.
have 2 more counselors. Counselor Scott McLean.
Gotcha. Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Director Rashawn or Director Richard. How long did we supply bulk water at the Public Works? Just curious.
I can give you, it was weeks. It may have been a month and a half, but there was quite a substantial time there where we're giving out, water to those haulers.
Okay, thanks. And was how much was that again? Was it 20,000 or so? Or
Yeah,
give or take?
and I'm basing that on the last I signed off on the invoices for the water utilities. It was in the 20,000-ish range.
Okay, thanks.
Counselor John Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So a question for Director Richard. It would be helpful, maybe even on an annual basis, to know what the bulk water quantities are that are going out of Garland's Crossing and Falmouth, just for future reference.
Yeah, absolutely. The more data we can manage our system, the more data we have to be able to manage it. And that just came online late this summer. So once we have that yearly amount, maybe even something we could put in the annual report for the water treatment plant, because those are certainly available to you too, like all the chemical consumptions and the flows out of the plant. So it's all data. But again, it's just resources to kind of compile this data. It's great to have the data, but we certainly need someone there to consistently analyze that data, make sure it's correct, and then manage it and any follow-ups that need to be done. So that's what we're lacking on the resource side.
Okay, I have one question for Director Richard. Richard, the water from the public works, was that we were giving away, was that open to all haulers?
It certainly was. There was people hauling out of there pretty much 24/7 as that was opened up. So
And all haulers knew about that?
as far as I can't really comment if all haulers knew, but I think the word was out. You couldn't go to the Falmouth one due to the drought and restrictions, but we opened up the public works. I think there was even notice put on the bulk water station on Station Road in Falmouth. So if they showed up there, I've redirected them to the public works ops building.
Perfect. Any other questions? Being none, you guys are off the hook for this. Thank you very much. So we'll move right along. Correspondence, general correspondence received ledger as of February 6th. Provincial response regarding West Hants Regional Municipality request to release the environmental racism report. That was in your packages. B, correspondence sent as of February 6th, 2026, and there was none. So we will just check the time, make sure. 11, new business. A, Annapolis Valley Regional Library 2026-27 budget request. CAO?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can take the lead on this one. I know Councilor Remy and the mayor had the opportunity. I apologize if someone else was there. We had the opportunity to meet at the County of Kings facility with the other municipal units at a meeting called by the units and the Annapolis Valley Regional Library Board regarding their funding and the status of their funding. So council's had the benefit of seeing this report, but just quickly hitting the highlights that the library funding formula expired in March 31st of 2025. And I think the regional librarian has been here a number of times just to kind of express some of the cost increases they have had with basically a static funding formula in place and what challenges that presents. And of course, there's been a reduction of service over the years. Some of those things are noted in the report. I think probably the bookmobile is one that people would historically be familiar with. So those are some of the services that they've continued to reduce. Fast forwarding to the request, basically the regional library is asking municipal units to consider a 50% increase in their municipal contribution to help for the 26-27 year. And of course, all the hypotheticals of which some were shared at this meeting and some which wouldn't be appropriate in open forum, but some basically it translates into projected continued service reduction around the library, around the region. We, of course, have 2 libraries within the municipality. So without the funding, something's going to change, I guess, if I could just summarize it that way. The request, thank you, Clerk Snare, she has that on the screen. The request translates, the 50% increase translates into the values that you'll note there. With West Hants increased going from $134,400 to $201,600. And that is the request. I do have the benefit of seeing some of emails, what different municipal units are doing. I'd say they're all over the chart, so to speak. I'm not sure if any have formally taken it to their councils of it yet. Maybe Middleton did. So if anybody's asking me today, what's everyone else doing? I really can't give you an accurate snapshot, but I would think that I could give you a better picture by the council meeting, depending on where council wants to go with this request here tonight. So that being said, I can answer as many questions as I can. Again, Councilor Remy, I think his worship, we're also at that meeting. There may be some missing pieces they could help fill in if council has any questions, but the request is for West Hants to consider $201,600 in the 26-27 operating budget as our municipal contribution for this year.
Thank you, CAO. Any questions or Mayor Zabian?
Yeah, through you, Chair. Thank you. Thanks for your report, CAO. The request is still in from the library board to the province as well. So, and the province has yet to go through its budget cycle this year. So, fingers are still crossed that they increase their contribution or their share as well. Just wanted to add that little bit in there, just for council's information as well. The library board does a great job on trying to maintain the service, and it's all highlighted that, you know, cuts have been made. We've heard of it on our end as well. This is over and above what West Hants pays in for us as a council anyways, of the operating of the actual buildings as well. So this is not part of that. So that's still on our side. So I think staff have done a great job on supporting our both our libraries on making sure those spaces are welcome and accessible and warm and up to date. So yeah, just want to add that little bit as well. And I'm not correct, Councilor. I mean, maybe there's something else. I think it covers it all at this point. All the municipal units were there that day. There were varying discussion points, varying thoughts and ideas. But again, I think it was pretty well highlighted that the libraries are very important to all communities. So, yeah.
Great. Councilor Remy?
I think most things were covered. I do just want to add, though, this libraries are really the only absolutely free accessible space that absolutely anybody in the region can access. So I just want to throw that little thing in there. Also, the board is getting together. We're having a session to kind of like relook at what the library is offering and, you know, what we can do to kind of change things up and save money and all of those things. So I just want to make council very aware that this wasn't the first idea that we had, is just go and ask the municipalities for more money. It's been an ongoing discussion since I've been on the board and just trying to figure out ways to manage things. And so, yeah, so I mean, those discussions are continuing at every board meeting and those types of things. I just don't want anybody to think that it was just an immediate response to let's go to the municipalities. So just to make it very clear that the board is working very hard and so our staff to be able to continue operating that the way they are.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing no lights. Councillor Ivy.
I guess I just, I'm supportive of this. I really believe in the importance of reading, particularly at the youth level, and the foundation that they get in having a good reading background for anything they look to do in the future, as far as whatever it might be. And so it's concerning. In fact, it's I'd say it's a very concerning picture that we see here as it relates to libraries being challenged this way. This challenge has been taking place over the last number of years, as you highlight. And I don't know what the longer term answer is to this, but short term for sure, I think this is something that needs to be supported in the hopes that a longer term, better picture comes forward.
Councillor Paul Martin.
So Deanna, could you bring up the chart there for me once again, just have a quick look at it? So I got a question about the funding. What happens if not everybody buys into the funding? Do they get the funding that's provided by everybody else spread across, or is it just for the units that actually fund it?
DAO?
I can't recall if that question was asked at the meeting. Perhaps your worship, if you have anything to.
So the library board doesn't distribute funds based on individual libraries and where those units that house those libraries within its community. That's not how it works. Your funds go in and the funds are used to operate all libraries in an equal manner. So West Hance's $134,400 contribution doesn't go 100% towards Hansport Windsor. It's put into the pool and they operate all libraries through the Annapolis Valley out of that pool.
So that brings another question. So we've funded and there's a cut. They could cut one of ours even though we funded it. Is that correct or not correct?
It's a board decision.
Yeah,
But they could cut us even though we funded the program.
That would be a board decision, and I think they were very specific that day that again they look at everything as an overall, so they wouldn't single out any one library. So and again, they haven't made any decisions on anything to this point. So but they operate as a regional library board, not as a individual.
I know what you're saying, but it's like if the big three put in and the rest of them don't, then we're funding the rest of the library. That's where I'm at.
Counselor John Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, similar to Councillor Morton. So I'm just curious, there's no binding agreement to tie all of these municipalities together so that, like if three want to fund it, then they all have to fund it, or it's an individual voluntary basis?
So there is a formula for the existing, we'll say, like the portioning. But I think I would refer to the mayor's explanation. There's no guarantee. Back to Councilor Morton's question. I know some units may consider, a conditional approval, but then you get into, but that's up to the council.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Seeing no other lights. There is no recommendation, so wait and see. Budget.
Yep.
Mayor Zabian?
I through you, Chair. I think it's definitely something that should come back to the council meeting in February. Maybe we have more information on other municipal units and on their intent and their way forward. I believe that day of that meeting, I had raised the idea of, or the thought that, is it all or none, or how does it work? And it's a difficult question to ask because there's 8 different municipal contributors, and if we could all get in the room together and agree on the extra funding anyways, it'd be a lot easier. But the contribution on your left, that's already, that's through the provincial government. That's our mandatory cost, right? So the extra would be voluntary on top. So again, council has options if it wanted to go down that way. You could you can make motions that are contingent on all units increasing their funding as per request. You could make a motion that West Hants is going to increase its contribution, but if all other units don't, we request our funds be distributed to our 2 local libraries. Council has multiple requests for its funding, but and then you could just wait for the end of the month and see if there's more information on other units. Gives you a better idea as well.
Great. Counselor Yanish.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I think the most critical piece of information we need is the provincial budget. And once that, we keep hearing so much about it. And once we have that in front of us, then I think we'll be in a much better position to make decisions.
Good point. Counselor Ivy.
Yeah, just a point of clarity based on the comments shared by the mayor. So currently with West Hant speaking about us, we're 134.4 is our annual contribution. It would step up to 2016, correct? It's not an incremental 2016. Am I?
It would step up to
2016.
6, so it'd be an additional 67.2.
Great. Yeah, thank you.
Counselor Remy.
Through you, Chair, just one comment. I mean, I agree that waiting for the provincial budget is ideal. And we do have the facilitation stuff coming up, like I say, with the library board and those types of things, and something to be discussed at budget. So, which I feel like, it's a good topic to discuss at budget. In the interim, though, I would encourage people to do a little bit of advocacy for the library, because the more they hear about this, then the better it will be. So they need to understand how important the libraries are to our communities and those types of things. So I think that would be super too.
Mayor Zabian.
Just one final point as well, Chair. I know the provincial government, they like partnerships as well. I think this council has spoken on partnerships in the past as well, with funding partners. So everything is tight with all municipal units, all levels of government. It's tight. You've heard in the news that the each provincial department has been tasked with looking to find savings. What that looks like, again, back to Councillor Janish's point on the budget, we'll know when the budget comes out with more clarity. This point was discussed at that meeting that was held with all the units, and all units were present there, with at least 2 councillors and CAOs, I believe. I could be off, maybe 1 or 2, depending on the unit, but the thought was discussed as well. If municipalities came to the table with extra, the provincial government may take that as a good sign as well, and come to the table with more. Again, this request only really satisfies 26, 27. Just want to highlight that in case somebody didn't pick that up on in the report. So, they're going to still be faced with a problem going forward after that period as well. So this would buy them another year, but what does that look like? 27, 28, 28, 29, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this may be a small amount to look at, with the hopes that the provincial government says, you know what, we're going to meet you halfway there, or we're going to match that contribution, which would put them in a better spot than what is. But that was discussed that day. I don't think we brought up, but that was discussed as well.
Sounds good. So we'll wait for a report or an update, maybe just to come back at council meeting. Everyone's good? Excellent. Okay, new business B, Remo agreement with Kings County. CAO Phillips, you're up again.
Madam Chair. Report up here. Okay, so council has the benefit of the report. I think council has the benefit of past discussions. Feels like probably the fire service meeting that we had. Was that in 2025 or 2026? I can't remember. It wasn't that long ago. Anyway, the benefit of understanding the new rules and regulations that the Department of Emergency Management are imposing on municipalities. And that, of course, translates into everyone needs to be part of a REMO. Not just an EMO, which would be specific to only one municipal unit. And of course, we used to be 3 and now we're 1. So we used to be a REMO, now we're an EMO, and now we need a partner. So as previously reported, the municipality of East Hants has a stronger community of interest with their neighbors to the east. And they're going in that direction. So we have moved to the west. And Kings County, REMO exists, of course, with the municipal units noted in the report, some of those same partners with the library service. And this report would reflect us joining with Kings REMO. Of course, all the standard pieces associated with EMO response. There are some standards that are kind of changing the service level. We'll say vulnerable persons directory and those types of things. But for the most part, the skeleton, the nuts and bolts of municipal responsibilities is the same. So with that being said, this report reflects direction that we would move towards entering into a REMO agreement with the County of Kings. There is a recommendation there. Before I do go to that financially, Deanna, if you can put that up, you can see what the REMO budget looked like with or without us. So you see it's approximately $121,800 as part of the agreement, and the same bottom line would exist. Our contribution would be 23% of the agreement. You'll see we use uniform assessment and population. And just coincidentally, I remember looking at this years ago for different formulas, how the uniform assessment and population from a percentage point of view is fairly consistent. It's kind of interesting as you think about that, right? So those two things combined, and then of course a strategy to have an equal contribution of 7,300 from each participating unit. So that translates into $27,139, which would be our contribution towards the agreement and the service, which is primarily the coordinator. We would maintain some of our EMO related expenses within our own operating budgets. I must say as well, in addition to this report, we would have to amend our existing bylaw. That is currently, I think, the former West Hants bylaw with respect to when it was a REMO. So again, just more heading and geographic changes versus significant changes within the bylaw. So with all that, Madam Chair, that's a brief description of the rationale, and there is a recommendation there for council's consideration.
Thank you, CAO. So the report was in our package. So if there's any questions at this time on it to CAO, otherwise there is a recommendation. Councillor Paul Morton.
I do have a question for CEO. So is there any provincial money involved in this as well? This is all the units are paying for.
So there is what we might call some seed money that is floating around out there for the creation of a REMO. And then it's proportionate to the number of units. So there is some funding out there that may help supplement, I guess, this first year's cost, but that's all subject to us formalizing the relationship and then us making that application. So there is some funding, but it is for the creation of it. And I don't think that they would anticipate it being ongoing.
So
But
year
this-
year two, that number could be more.
No, this does not factor in any of that grant money, we'll say.
Okay.
So I would say year one, it could be less. And year two, it would be this, or if the budget changed. Yeah.
Any other questions? Seeing none, Councillor Larry Finch.
That Committee of the Whole recommends to Council that the West Hants Regional Municipality enter into an intermunicipal service agreement substantively the same as the Kings Remo agreement presented at the February 10th, 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting to form a regional emergency management organization with neighboring Kings County municipalities for the provision of emergency management services for the geographic areas of Kings County and the West Hants Regional Municipality.
Seconded by Councillor Paul Morton. So do we have that up for a vote, or do you want us just to use hands? We could just use hands if folks are good with that. So the recommendation is the Committee of the Whole recommends to Council that the West Hants Regional Municipality enter into an intermunicipal service agreement substantially the same as the Kings Remo agreement presented at the February 10th, 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting to form a regional emergency management organization with neighboring Kings County municipalities for the provision of emergency management services for the geographic areas of Kings County and the West Hants Regional Municipality. All those in favor by show of hands? Motion carried. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so that takes us to 12, to our public comment period. So we allow public members 5 minutes to speak if they have something on the agenda that they would like to speak about. You want to come up, Rick? Just state your name and where you're from. And as you know, we can't answer questions, but you can speak on something on the agenda.
Yes, good evening. My name is Rick Smith. I live in Windsor. I have for the past probably 20 years. Grew up here. So just to try to be as brief as I can, my interest really for the most part, other than generally being interested in my community, has always been around the water utility. So I would like to just address a few issues as it relates to the water utility. I will try to be brief because I have addressed many of these issues surrounding utility before, and I'll touch base on that. So really what I wanted to touch base on this evening, and I realized that council has not reviewed necessarily, I know the audit committee has the audited financial statements for March 31st, but I have a reason 2025 for just touching base on that because I'd like to make a few comments as it relates to the water utility. Because the water utility ended the year with a deficit of about $221,000 on the audited statements. And however, the internal statements that were provided to council back in June of 2025 was forecasting a surplus of about $143,000. And at that time, it was said to be a good number. So I took a quick glance at the differences and noted that operating expenses increased from 4.2 on the internal statement to 4.6 on the audited. And that's an increase of just over $400,000. And that's, in my mind, very significant. And it's concerning in terms of how that's happening and presumably through that period when the internal financials were done and the audit statement was finalized. So I touch on that because my concerns are not just with the 25 year. I'm more concerned in terms of what's happening in the 26 year, because you may recall I sent out an email on January the 19th, I believe it was, and I covered off a number of issues, everything from operating budgets as it related to water and a bit on sewer and where some of the numbers were going. And I have concerns because they're big numbers. So if I look at, before I jump into that email, if I look at the water utility budget for this year, it was budgeting a deficit of about $5,800. That's a small number. Yet forecasts during the year at different times during the year were as high as about $619,000, $454,000. I'm just rounding, and currently a surplus of about $14,000. So I guess I come from a different school of accounting, to be honest. When I look at those numbers, they're unreliable in my mind, and you can't predict based on those numbers. I realize that's being critical, but and that's why what led me really to writing the email that I did, because the email that relates to not just the budgets for 25, 26, but some of the numbers that are in those numbers. And, just to touch on a few, for example, at one point, the revenue for sewer was forecasted at 2,000,001 or 2,000,002. Was then budgeted a bit higher. I think the current forecast is 2.9. Yet the sewer rate study is budgeting over 3.4 million. Now, when I say the sewer rate study, I mean, it's very similar to the water rate study, which I'll comment on. And the reason those studies were done was such that the municipality could look at rate increases and increase their rates so that basically the water utility, and as I understand, the sewer utility would be self-supporting. And currently, based on those forecasts, I just don't understand why those level of forecasts are there relative to the sewer rate study or the water rate study. The other thing is, particularly with sewer, for example, Again, it's supposed to be self-supporting. There's no separate statement being provided on the sewer. So it's a little difficult to trail financially. But in the sewer rate study, it suggests that the non-operating expenses would be about $1 million, and yet the budget that's in there for 25-26 is only about $460,000. So, I mean, those are big differences. If I look ahead at the water rate study, those water rate sales are currently budgeted around 2.9 million. The water rate study suggests 3.7 million. So, you know, I don't want to jump ahead, but if that's all the revenue that's coming in and these expenses aren't occurring, maybe things will be okay. But the purpose of that study and the forecasts in that study was such that the rates that were applied should in fact help the utility, be it sewer, water, more or less break even, more or less. It's not a perfect world. So I just think these numbers are so big. The other thing is on the water rate, on the water side of things, originally depreciation was budgeted at 700,000. The water rate study shows it should be just about $1,000,001. And likewise with transmission and distribution, based on the budget, it's up over $300,000. You know, and if I look at the non-operational expenses on the water side, they're currently budgeted at 400 and round numbers 424,000. Yet the water rate study suggests it should be $1,000,007. So I haven't received any response to this correspondence. And there's many pieces of correspondence I have prepared and I don't receive a response. You might argue or question why I would be here, mostly because I think it's important. It's important to at least understand the numbers. I'm not here to try to make the numbers be incorrect, but if I never get a response to this correspondence, and if people around the table don't understand the question, let alone the answer, then no one benefits. And that was always my objective, was to help provide information. It's my background. I love numbers. I hope it shows from time to time. But it was always my intention to try to put information forward such that it would help. Yet it always seems to be critical. I don't like it. I'm tired of it. You know, to be honest, I'm not here to complain. But what I am saying is that it really is time to get answers. It's just, to me, and I did have some written script. Usually it's typed. I just got a little frustrated today and didn't know whether I wanted to speak. I took in the audit committee meeting the other evening. I thought the meeting was run very efficiently. I just didn't think that I had time to take in the audited statements as well as the report from MNP, which I had some issue with because it was just a bare presentation slide issue. And I understand that, I'm the public, I'm not a counselor, and I only get to see certain information. But the information I do see, I should be able to understand it. And I should be able to bring questions forward and ideally get answers. I don't look for answers immediately. But it's up to you as counselors as to whether you want answers to these questions or not in the future, really and honestly. I mean, I heard questions around, the current financials, just for example, the consumption report, trying to identify issues. I understand that it's not a perfect world and it's not a perfect schedule. But, if you're picking this schedule up at November 30th, what does that mean? If it only includes water at the tap that's being billed to September 3rd, which was the date of my last bill, then say it's September 3rd. If the consumption is taken off at some different time, say when it's taken off. I understand the issues, Director, around these.
Excuse me, Rick.
Yeah.
You're here, I think, to address council, not
Oh.
staff, please. So
I wasn't,
if
that
you
wasn't
could,
my intent.
okay,
Got it.
you are here to direct to questions to council, not to staff members
No,
at
it
this
was a
time.
question, and
No,
I-
okay,
yeah.
if we.
It wasn't going to be a
practice it
negative.
Then that would be wonderful.
It wasn't
Thank
a
you.
negative comment.
No, I'm
Simply
just wanted to, yeah, this is council. for
understood.
committee. Okay, thank you.
But my point on the consumption report is we definitely need a consumption report. We just need to change it because this report, as I understand it, really only accounts for the bulk meters coming out of the Windsor plant. As my understanding is, we're not metering Falmouth and Hantsport the same way as Windsor. As a West Hants municipality, it's no better time than to understand where our water goes. We're really talking about efficiency. So how much water leaves the Hantsport plant? How much leaves the Falmouth plant? How much leaves the Windsor plant? And how much gets billed? Like, it should be fairly easy to do. I mean, it takes some time, but the more data you build, the easier it gets. And one of the most important thing is you have to date it and understand what we're comparing, because if you're not comparing the same timeline, it's not meaningful. So that's the point I was trying to make. I understand that. And likewise with the financials themselves. I mean, if on this report at November 30th, 2025, if the rate sales for 2 quarters are 2 million for, what are they going to be for 4 quarters? It doesn't seem like they're going to be 3.4. It seems like if these numbers are for 2 quarters, it's going to be more like 4.9. I'm not suggesting that's the right number, but to look at the numbers, that's what I'm seeing. So, you know, I look at the numbers and I obviously see them differently. And you know, I always try to qualify by saying that I try to present the numbers as accurately or based on information that I have available, and that information comes from the municipality. But when I think of the rate studies and the rationale for the rate studies, there's a schedule in there, and I can't quote it right off. It might be like D2, so don't quote me, or B2. That statement in there that was put in that study by professional people, prepared that. And that really should emulate your budget for the 24 year, the 25 year, and the 26 year. That's why it was done. And so if it doesn't, that's really what I'm saying is, why are those operating expenses, which is primarily principal and interest, which is a huge number for the 25-26 year, why is it so low currently? Because if that only catches up with you at year end, which is fast approaching March 31st, then that's a bit late to understand what is happening. So that's really, you know, when I look at these numbers, I'm always, that's the way my mind is, that's the way I think. How, you know, how might these numbers look? I'm not there to challenge every single penny. I look at it conceptually. I'm used to putting out statements every 4 weeks and doing branch statements and departmental statements and reviewing them and saying that doesn't look right. Let's have another look at that. That's all I'm saying. And that's what I try to do with these statements. And but with very little information. Because when you talk about even depreciation.
Rick, I'm going to ask you to wrap it up. We've been almost 15 minutes. We allow usually one speaker. I've given you the grace. It's just that we do only allow 20. So
Appreciate-
if you could just wrap it up.
Will do.
Okay,
I got
please.
carried away. Thank you.
Thank you.
I get a bit emotional when I talk about numbers and finance. So I do appreciate your time. And I only hope that you take some interest in the numbers and that they're not straightforward. They're not straightforward. And we're not all accountants, but I think there needs to be a good understanding of those numbers and just a good sit down on the numbers. And almost like a round table and get a good understanding. I know you have your MMP report coming up and your audited financial statements, and I would just encourage you to try to understand those as best you can and get to some of these numbers. So when they're coming forward, you understand them. And I'm not saying that my numbers are correct. I'm just challenging why they're different than what I'm seeing elsewhere in your records as part of your studies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You have a good evening. No one else in the gallery, and we're at our 20 minutes, so that's great. So counselors, we usually break at 8. So I'm going to do multitask here. So we'll take our break. Before we do that, we're to go in camera next. So would it be okay if we make a motion to go in camera? It's going to take you a little bit to get it set up, and those who want to run for a quick break or something or gathers a drink, we can do that at the same time to multitask. Is everyone okay with that?
So
Okay,
Chair.
perfect. Motion carried. So folks at home, we're going to sign off. We're going to go in camera and we may be back if there's something left to come back. So stay tuned.